back to the Base Indonesian Show, where we venture into the comments section to see what Indonesians are saying about Oppenheimer. Grossed $47.3 million in the United States via IMAX, which accounts for 27.2% of its total domestic gross, with a further $33.4 million overseas, which accounts for 14.8% of its worldwide takings to date. It is both a financial and critical success, but is still behind Barbie in terms of box office, making Barbie the undisputed money-grabbing winner. However, while Barbie made more money, both Barbie and Oppenheimer were critically acclaimed. So well done, Nolan, for taking on the corporate behemoth that is Barbie. Moving on from Barbieheimer, which I will discuss on my later videos, Oppenheimer's screening in Indonesia opened up many average Indonesians towards the horrors of nuclear warfare. Except the Vatniks, Nufos, Wumaos, baby boomers, military officers, and international relations graduate who studies nukes and the dangers of huffing uranium as a substitute for coke. Suddenly, many Indonesians are well versed in history and became anti-nuclear advocates. Many made the appalling connection that if it wasn't for Oppenheimer, Indonesia wouldn't be independent. Outrageous! TikTok comment section are the breeding grounds of these misleading and tilting opinions. And I, as a Sigma male that has spent plenty of times in the forums and the internet, I must do my part in talking shit and enlighten the masses. One comment at a time. Vamonos! If I'm not mistaken, if it wasn't Oppenheimer or Einstein that invented the bomb, wouldn't it be invented by someone else? Yes, but it would take a long time to do so. Many smart European physicists and scientists were also, coincidentally, Jewish. They were also pretty progressive for their time, which at the time meant they were also communists. Germany had plenty of them and a nuclear program. But these scientists fled overseas in fear of getting murdered over spreading Jewish science. And Germany's nuclear program was halted due to resources being directed for the war effort. Japan also had a nuclear program. They discovered nuclear can be exploded and kill lots of people, so they started their own atomic bomb project. But like Germany, Japan's nuclear program never took off. The United Kingdom also had the know-how to create nukes. They set up the MAUD committee to determine if atomic bombs were feasible, and contributed to the US Manhattan Project because the United Kingdom didn't have the industrial capacity or technical power to create an atomic bomb. Not only that, Oxford and Cambridge, being a breeding ground for Soviet spies, meant that the British project was doomed to be leaked from the start. The Soviet Union could also develop nuclear weapons, but they were on a very hard start. The Soviets discovered that Germany, America, and Britain had silent scientific publications regarding nuclear weapons. So, the Soviets developed their own atomic bomb project. However, due to a lack of knowledge, the Soviets relied on information and espionage sourced from the West in order to create their own bomb. This means that the Soviets could only complete their bomb if the West had reached the results that they want. Suffice to say, it would be a difficult but not impossible task for other countries to come up with their own atomic bombs, a slow process that would require many years. By that point, we'd probably be using Death Stars for super weapons. We won't declare independence because after World War II, in 1947, Europe and the Dutch received financial aid from the US, which means the Dutch became stronger. Somewhat a false assumption. True, America did give financial aid to Europe, including the Dutch in the form of the Marshall Plan, but funds from the Marshall Plan did not specifically build up the Dutch military or influence. The funds were funneled straight into rebuilding the infrastructure and the Dutch economy. And the Dutch were told to be responsible over the planning of their own military. The Dutch did become stronger over time, however, it is because of the cooperative framework that is NATO and the European Union. It is not directly tied with the Marshall Plan. America was also pushing for the right of self-determination post-World War II. Therefore, America supported the decolonialization movement initiated by the British, encouraging countries to gain their independence. But let's take a look from a geopolitical perspective. This is a good political move to garner more allies against the Soviet Union. So the American public and government was against the Dutch reasserting their control over Indonesia. If anything, America implicitly threatened to cut the Dutch off from the Marshall Plan if they did not favor Indonesia's independence, even though the Dutch were handing Indonesia's ass in direct military confrontations. Indonesia's guerrilla tactics and Western pressure will eventually weaken the Dutch down and give Indonesia independence. Anyways, I was phased out for 3 hours. Some Indonesian people go and watch Oppenheimer expecting it to be an MCU spectacle. And they seriously think Thanos is gonna appear to bitch slap Oppenheimer for real. When the first and the sequel dropped, it was a box office bomb. And everyone was fired up because of how horrible it was. So they aren't going to let this one on the silver screen. If Oppenheimer didn't exist, war will continue raging because atom and nuclear bombs weren't invented. And the reason war stopped was because of the atom bomb. False! Let's address the first statement, which is if Oppenheimer didn't exist. Oppenheimer was not the sole inventor of nuclear weapons. Research into manipulating nuclei to create explosions was such a hot topic in the scientific and academic world during the time that any scientist that was well versed in the matter was able to produce results with the help of funding, resources, and industry. Not only that, but scientists need to also apply theoretical physics into the realm of practical physics with the help of engineers, specialists, and other researchers. So, the team will not only be concerned with calculating how to trigger a blast, but also to find ingredients, materials, and techniques to trigger it. Oppenheimer was called the father of the atomic bomb and ushered in the atomic era, where humanity would use nuclear energy to power aspects of their lives, from weapons to electricity. But Oppenheimer was not the only inventor. He was merely the conductor that managed an orchestra of scientists, researchers, engineers, and other technical staff. He was the first to win the race because Japan, Germany, the United Kingdom, and the Soviet Union had their own atomic bomb projects. If Japan completed it first, it wouldn't be Oppenheimer. It would be Yoshio Nishina, who would be the father of the atomic bomb. If the Soviets completed it first, it would be Igor Kurchatov. Second, the reason the war stopped was because of the atomic bomb. That is true. The atomic bomb proved to be such a massive terror weapon that it could cripple the Japanese morale. But the real reason why war seemed to stop was because of the idea of deterrence. In the 1950s, everybody knew nuclear war was disastrous for mankind, and that estimation is the reason why nobody wants to fire a nuclear weapon first. The idea that it will destroy humanity and will not leave a clear winner is called mutually assured destruction, or shortened into MAD. Nuclear war is indeed very mad. But yeah, I think I have enough looking through the comment sections. These are the cream of the crop of the pickings. A lot of Indonesian people I've learned came to see this movie in blind, without knowing the history of Oppenheimer and nuclear weapons. Some of them were confused, and others were just there because the name Christopher Nolan was slapped into the poster along with other actors. Some of them had a newfound fear of nukes and an understanding of what it means to give human society the gift of nuclear power. Nolan had successfully communicated the questions surrounding nuclear power and its impact to wider society. But I feel many Indonesians must grasp the consequence of nuclear power and nuclear weapons. We need to understand why we abhor nuclear weapons and to avoid its creation or proliferation. Instead of outright rejecting it, we need to also understand the real and moral reason for why we refuse. But we are a great country and we are about to be a great power. Indonesia must have nuclear weapons at all costs so we can be considered a superpower. Having nukes does make your country a lot stronger, but it would by no means make you a superpower or make your country great. Pakistan, India, North Korea, and Russia are all nuclear powers, but they still have problems regarding infrastructure, economy, and commodities. Wealth is still highly unequal, and there's a concentration of prosperity only in certain classes of society. My take is, if you want to become a great power, a country must understand the horrors of mass destruction, avoid production of those weapons, and focus on building a better society. But that wouldn't matter if you nuke everyone else in the planet because you will be the last country standing. And by default, your country will be the greatest country on earth. So nuke away!
Subscribe to the Based Indonesian Show. Dijamin halal